Welcome to the Confessions Podcast. I'm Cindy Wagman.
And I'm Jess Campbell. We're two former in-house nonprofit pros turned coaches and consultants to purpose-driven organizations.
After years of building up our separate six-figure businesses from scratch, we've thrown a lot of spaghetti at the wall and have lived to see what sticks.
We're on a mission to help other nonprofit coaches and consultants looking to start or scale their own businesses past the six-figure mark by pulling back the curtain.
Whether you're still working inside a nonprofit and thinking of one day going out on your own, or you've been running your consulting business for years, you understand that working with nonprofits is just different. We're giving you access to the business leaders who serve nonprofits as their clients. You know, the people who truly get it.
No more gatekeeping, no more secrets. This podcast is going to give you an inside look at what running a successful nonprofit coaching and consulting business looks like. Basically, we're asking people how much money they make, how they get paid, and what has and hasn't worked in their businesses.
Listen in as these leaders share their insights, their numbers, and the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to building a nonprofit coaching or consulting business. We're going to empower you to make the power moves that give you the income and freedom you set out to create from day one.
You ready? Let's go.
Hey, Jess.
Hi, I'm so excited.
Me too, / very nervous.
Oh, come on.
I feel like I'm in the hot seat today.
You are in the hot seat. So, ladies and gentlemen, for everyone tuning in, we have a very special treat because somehow I've gotten Cindy to agree to do a full launch recap, the nitty-gritty details, all the numbers following her super successful launch of her Fractional Fundraiser Academy. And we are going to get into it.
Oh, all the details.
All the details.
The details.
I know. Yeah. I always joke. I don't think there's like a launch recap that has gone unread for me. I love them all. Give me
I know. I want to
deep dive case study.
Yeah, I want to see behind everyone else's businesses. I'm so nosy, but it's also so helpful and informative. And I think there's a lot we can learn from other people. So I'm an open book.
Okay, cool. Well, then let's just context set a little bit. Can you tell us, for those two people listening who might not know what the Fractional Fundraiser Academy is, what is this program?
Yes. So if you're new to the podcast and you didn't experience the launch, I created a new program. It's called the Fractional Fundraiser Academy. And basically it's a business training program for fundraisers who want to become consultants as fractional fundraisers or who want fractional fundraising in their consulting mix. So I don't teach fundraising. I teach you the business side of things. And it's a 6-month program. And this was my first formal launch. I'll definitely share a little bit about the history in terms of where it started over a year ago and how it's evolved to this. But this was like my very public, all in, put everything on the line launch.
Yes. Okay, great. So let's do that history lesson. Yeah. What was it about 18 months ago? And then how did you kind of shake it up to make it what it is today? And then what is it now?
Yeah. So back in the day, we did this in-house. So I had employees and we offered fractional fundraising services to nonprofits, small nonprofits. And actually, I'd been thinking about what growth looked like and what scale looked like, and really struggled with like, how many staff do I need? How many clients do we need to sustain those staff? And the one thing I knew was there was a demand for the service. And so instead of hiring, I kind of created a job posting, and I was like, if you want to do this as an independent consultant, I have clients for you. And I recruited 3 people and got them fully booked. And around the same time, one of my staff, so my team was amazing, and one of them gave notice. She was leaving us, and I was like, how am I going to replace her? Like, I couldn't imagine replacing any of my team. And so I looked at this also as an opportunity to offer my existing team the opportunity to transition to being consultants themselves. They would make more money and there were lots of benefits to them. So we started out with, we sort of transitioned. So I kept one staff member to see out some existing contracts. One became a fractional fundraiser. And then, as I said, the other gave notice. And so we had 3 new people and started doing this work and just really organically grew and got to a point where I had 11 fractional fundraisers in my network. They were not employees. They're all their own businesses and they were all fully booked. And this was towards probably like December in 2022. And I knew I was ready to grow and scale this as a more formal training program. Really up until then, people were kind of just like, I trust you, Cindy. You're going to show me the rope. But there were no training videos. There was no, like, there were a little bit, but they were really piecemeal and not great. I had some resources, but it really relied on me spending some time with people. And like I have off group, like weekly office hours. And I was doing a lot of introductions around clients. And then I sort of had an epiphany that I'm not responsible for matching every client with every person who's in the program. And this is something that's a little bit bigger. So put together a program, much more formal. And the Fractional Fundraiser Academy this past launch it's a $9,000 program. As I said, it's 6 months. There's self-paced training as well as office hours and lunch and learns and community on Slack. So it's pretty comprehensive.
Okay, so for folks listening in, and we're going to get to the launch, which is really the meat of this conversation, but I have a feeling people are like kind of curious about that curriculum design piece. Like, did you just know what to do? How did you decide what goes where? I've been lucky enough to see the inside of Cindy's masterpiece. And I mean, it has templates, it has spreadsheets, it has examples, it has training videos, it has everything you possibly need to become a fractional fundraiser. And, that kind of thing just doesn't get whipped up.
No, a lot of those.
How much time did you spend? How did you know what to break apart into micro sessions and all that stuff?
So I got really lucky. I applied for an accelerator program at one of the local universities. And part of what they offer is I get a fractional executive. And so I actually got an executive who does curriculum design. So I worked with her for about 3 or 4 months, and she created the curriculum journey. And so we looked at, how, and because I've been doing this informally, we had so many case studies and feedback, and like we surveyed and interviewed existing members around what would be helpful for them. So we created this journey of like what your first year as a fractional fundraiser might look like and what tools do you need and how do you be successful. A lot of the tools we've already been using. So I didn't have to create a lot of the templates actually at all. Some of the stuff I just, took what was in my head. So for example, there's like FAQs on a sales call or discovery call that I didn't have formalized before. So I just formalized things like that. But a lot of it existed in one way, shape, or form. And it was really about creating structure to that journey and making it palatable for people. So I got to work with a curriculum designer. I've worked with other curriculum designers before, including our friend Danielle, who we have to have on the podcast. But I am not a teacher, and I find it really helpful to get that kind of support for me because it's a huge, like it was pretty overwhelming. There's a lot of content. And my brain organizes things in a way that makes sense to me, but it doesn't always make sense to everyone else.
Right. And I'm so glad you brought up Danielle. For those who don't know, Danielle Gines from DG Consulting is a curriculum specialist. But one of the things she said at Make It Happen is just adults learn differently.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if you were to model how you grew up learning, like in school or something, you just have a totally different way of doing that as a grown up. I know specifically, like short, concise, actionable lessons versus these long 25, 45-minute lessons that no one will pay attention to is like one thing. But yeah, if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, I'm going to go, I would really implore you to like talk to someone who's the expert in that space, because it's one thing to create all the content, but it's another thing for people to actually consume and like take action on it. And that's really what you want.
Yeah. Like if I didn't get that accelerator, I probably would have still hired someone to do this, because it's so outside of my wheelhouse. And especially when you're in the weeds of content, you don't always see what's the curse of knowledge, right? You don't always see things from someone who's looking at it for the first time. So that was really, really helpful in terms of, and I will say, like, I care very deeply, I think most of us do, about the quality of work that I'm doing. And I actually lost a lot of sleep humming and hawing about like, what's my responsibility in people's success, including the curriculum design, but also just like, am I responsible for matching them with clients? Do I like, what kinds of things, where does my responsibility end? And they have to take responsibility. And so to me, that was part of the thought around like, I want the best curriculum because I'm going to set them up to be as successful as possible. But also, whereas in the past, I did all the matchmaking, like I found people their first 3 clients. And now I said, like, that's something I'm not responsible for. Like I'm teaching them how to go find their clients and making sure it's a really great program. But I can't be responsible for doing all the matchmaking, so to speak. So I really spent a lot of time thinking about my responsibility, their responsibility, and pricing as it relates to all of those things.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's really helpful. And I think just, for everyone listening that's like thinking of designing a group coaching program, thinking of designing, of course, anything curriculum based, having some time with your thoughts around this, I think is really important. Okay, let's get into it. So you spend all this time creating this product. It's beautiful. It's magical. You're like, I'm ready to put this out to the world. Take us back to, like, you just said, your all in launch. Like, take us back to what that originally meant versus where you landed, and talk to us about some of your goals that you kind of had in mind around this launch.
Yeah. So, because it's grown so organically, my first goal was like, okay, I want 4 people in this program.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember when you said 6, I was like, great.
Like 4 to 6 people. That feels really successful, and manageable. So for me, that felt really safe. And like, if all things failed, I could easily find them clients, or some, it just, my mind worked that way. It felt really safe, but still a step towards my goals. And then you and some friends basically said to me, like, you're playing small. You said it in nicer terms, but you were right. And actually my other mastermind kind of said the same thing. And I have a history of like playing things safe. It doesn't look like I'm risk averse, but I am. And I need stability and predictability in a lot of ways. So that felt really comfortable. And so I was like, okay, no, I'm going all in. I'm actually going to make sure that I don't leave anything on the table. Like, I want to look back and know that I did everything I could to make this as big as possible. And so, and again, like Jess, I've said it before, this, but to our listeners, like Jess was so instrumental in helping me raise my sights and really think of a more comprehensive launch. Like, I was just going to do like an open house, come and learn about this. And I'll walk you through all the launch stuff. But for me, it was like, if I can do something, I'm going to do it. I'm putting I did advertising, I did affiliates, I did a bunch of things. And then I sort of was like, okay, well, what does success look like? And I held in my mind like 25 people, which is huge from 4. And I, spoiler, I didn't get the 25, but I got pretty damn close. And I'm really proud of how it went. And I definitely feel like it met my expectations in terms of like playing big and the reward paying off for that risk.
Yes. Okay. So just to recap for everyone, just like, again, she came in 4. I think when I spoke to her on the phone, it was like 6.
Yeah.
And then her big, like wild out of this world goal ended up at 25. So what are some of the different things that you had planned for versus things you did to actually go from that, 4 to 6 person goal to 25? Because just for everyone listening, I kept hearing Cindy say to me, like, I want to go all in on this. Like, I want this to be big. She kept saying that over and over. And like, for anyone listening, Cindy is such an action taker. It's almost something I've never seen before. Like, when I say action taker, when she says she's going to do something, she delivers. And so like the two things weren't matched. She was saying 4 people, but then the biggest launch ever. And I was like, this is not.
Yeah. And like in my mind, those 4 to 6 people, that was still really big at a $9,000 program. That's not something to like sneeze at. But yeah. So how did I go from like, originally, as I said, my idea was like, let's do an open house. That's worked for me to get the people we've had in the program so far.
And wouldn't you also say that like some of the coaches that we're inspired by, that's kind of their model to do like an open house? Yeah. And so it's like, okay, we see other people out there doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And like, also the idea for me was open house is like really straightforward. Like you're coming to learn if this is right for you. Right. It wasn't like a come learn some skill and I'm going to sell you off the back. It was like, you are going to come and discover if this is a good fit, if you're interested. So thanks to you, Jess, and our mastermind buddies, I started to look at, okay, how else am I going to build momentum and buy-in over like a launch period. And so while we were talking, I was also watching Mariah Cause launch one of her programs. And so I got inspired from our group and from that. And so really what it started with was, and I built all of this as I was going.
She was like also changing her email service provider. She went crazy for a couple of weeks. Wait, I told you to go bigger, but like slow down, pace yourself.
Yeah, no, I was like, everything's coming together. So I started with a quiz. I created this quiz. And I will say, I've launched a lot of things in the past. This one just felt so aligned in my bones. Like it just felt, so when I went to write this quiz, it poured out of me. Like it wasn't even like, I created this quiz in like an hour and it was so good. Like I've since adapted the quiz to be used for my coaching business as well. But so I created this quiz, how to find your fundraising consulting personality. There's 4 potential outcomes. And I posted that on LinkedIn and I shared it in a couple LinkedIn groups for fundraisers and it like blew up. It blew up. I had,
let's go through all of the opt-ins. Okay. And then we'll go through the numbers. So the first thing we had was the quiz.
Yeah. Actually, I teased it out with a wait list first. I forgot about that. So I teased it out with a wait list. Then I launched the quiz. Then I had a private podcast, which was so good because I got to interview people who are currently fractional fundraisers in my network about how it serves their life and their goals. And that just I think was what people needed to hear, but also made me feel really good. I'm not going to lie. Like I felt really proud. Then I created a budget template because I'm a numbers person. I like to crunch the numbers and see the scenarios to make decisions. And then I still did the open house at the end. And then I had an application period. So you had to apply. You couldn't just buy it. So I had an application period and did some calls in that time.
Okay, great. So for everyone listening, I just really want to like red, underline, double score, circle, 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 because if you are someone that is trying to like host a course or a group coaching program, I wish we lived in 2019 or 2020 where you could just do one thing and get people to opt in and grow your segment or audience and sell to them. But people have gotten way more advanced when it comes to purchasing products online, especially like group coaching programs and things like that. And so you need several points of buy-in. So again, when Cindy was like, I want to play big, I was like, okay, then you're going to need more than that open house. That's just not going to be enough buy-in, which is why we went from that 1 to like 5.
All the things.
And I think it's that reinforcement of like, not only clicking that opt-in button, but then like participating in the thing that you creating that know, like, and trust factor, that, authority building, like it does all these things. And the other thing I think people, mistake a lot that I coach people or my clients, even while we're running campaigns on, is you want to be growing your list while nurturing your list at the same time. 2 things can be done simultaneously, and then that is who you end up selling to.
Oh yeah. I can tell you my list growth.
But yeah, let's do it. Let's break it down. So what was your audience size when you hadn't even launched the wait list? Like what was the fractional fundraiser sell to list?
Yeah, it was for all intents and purposes, like nothing. I had a consult. So I have 2 kind of lists. I have my nonprofit clients and my consulting clients. And the consulting side, which was like people who were on my nonprofit list, but like opted into consulting things that I had. So they've been tagged as interested in consulting, was about 300 people. Okay. It grew over the course of this program to 1,146 through the launch.
Oh my gosh. So that's like 500% increase.
It's pretty significant.
And in how many days? What's the timeline? Like, do you remember when you launched the wait list?
Okay, hold on. I know when I launched where are my milestones? So the quiz I launched early March. So yeah, the wait list would have been in February. Okay. And then the cart closed May 9th.
Okay. So another thing, again, I just really want to underscore, Cindy didn't like put this together in 2 to 3 weeks. This was a long period. Yeah. I mean, by May 9th, I'm sure you were like, and I'm done.
But what I will say, I had an enrollment period. So it was like the waitlist people got a day early with some bonuses. And people were like, before I opened the enrollment, people were like, I'm ready. Like, I want in, like, I'm sold. You don't have to tell me anything. Just tell me where I can put my credit card information. Like, that was priceless because I knew that it was resonating and that I was giving people enough information to be really confident about their decision, which is really important to me. And so there was a ton of information I shared. The podcast, like, we went into so many details, like everything was transparent early on, including how much it cost, like all of those things. And people were asking to buy. They're like, I'm ready now if you want. I said, I can. I've already said publicly that this is when enrollment opens, but that was just such a testament to nurturing that list. And I also think like treating people with I would say like respect in terms of the transparency, like giving them the information and really letting them make an informed decision, not a decision based on scarcity or like a countdown timer kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I also want to like emphasize, Cindy said this at the beginning, but this was not her first rodeo when it comes to launching. Like she's had the experience of building and nurturing, putting out opt-ins, like going, turning up the dial, as I like to call it, on her comms and all these things. So if you're sitting here thinking and you're like, oh my gosh, I've never done this. And now I've got to create 5 opt-in opportunities to build my list. And I need to do all this stuff. It's like, take a breath, maybe do 1 or 2 just for your first one, but also keep your goals realistic, because we're just sharing publicly her numbers. She had an audience of 300 to 1,100, right?
Yeah.
And we'll get to her numbers at the end and her conversion rates and stuff. But like, it took several months and several opt-in opportunities to do that type of list growth.
And a track record.
Totally.
I will say I've been doing this work. I have the case studies. I have the experience doing it. And I would say like quieter, but like more publicly, right? So it is something that if I were launching and I didn't have any of those existing people, my strategy would be very different. But I really have tested and proven this model that I felt really comfortable going all in. I didn't go all in for my first time launching this.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So of the opt-ins, which one was the most successful for you? I'm just saying for you, because for anyone listening, like yours might be something different.
Yeah.
But what were yours?
Okay. Hands down, the quiz and the podcast. In terms of numbers, but also engagement. So the quiz was an amazing lead magnet, like almost entirely organic. Just like hugely successful. I had 572 people take it, and take the free, like the ones I didn't run ads to. I also ran ads. And then the podcast, I had about 281 subscribers, but people listened. They listened, they referenced it in calls with me. Like that was hugely successful in building that know, like, and trust, and sharing, again, that information transparency. People could just dig into all the things, and a lot of their questions were answered there.
Okay. So roughly half, a little less than half, came from the quiz, and then another 250, 260, something like that, came from the podcast. Now, you also said you ran ads.
Yes. So I will say, like, people did opt into multiple things.
Of course.
So I will say, like, a lot of people actually did the quiz and the podcast and the budget and the open house, which is great. But my ads, so the quiz I ran ads to the quiz. I got 83 leads from that at a cost of $10.63 a lead. I also ran ads to the open house. I tried calling it an open house in the ads. That didn't resonate. So I did go back to that, like, training language. And I had 84 people sign up for that at $6.77 a lead. Okay. Now, the big caveat is none of the people who bought in the end came through the ads.
Fascinating.
Yes, but I am not losing hope in that. I think there's still a lot of potential for those people. I am going to be continuing to run ads because I feel like they were really targeted and, like, good quality leads. But for this launch, none of them converted into sales.
Okay, cool. Which may be a testament to, and this is for everyone in our world, especially if you're someone that's a consultant selling to nonprofits, the getting on your email list, the nurturing time can often be quite long. I mean, like years sometimes. And so this is so exciting for me listening, because I'm like, your next launch is going to be so smooth and so wonderful, because you've got now this even bigger pool. Like, you started with 300, now you have 1,200 or whatever. and you're just nurturing those people, and they're going to be so ready the next time.
Exactly.
Oh, so exciting.
Exactly.
Shout out for the folks listening in, because you work with a team or a program for your ads. I know you run them, but who is that?
Yeah. So Jackie, and I'm going to forget her last name right now, but they're called Agency in Your Pocket. And we're going to have Jackie on the podcast as well. Jackie Muscat is her name. And shout out to Dana Snyder, who made the introduction. But yeah, that was really helpful. So actually, I can tell you some of my costs because I think this is relevant. The things that I outsourced or invested in. So working with that ads manager program was about $3,500. I hired you, Jess, to do a bunch of copywriting. It was about 4,200 Canadian. These are all Canadian dollars. I spent about $2,600 in ads. And I also include my AFP icon costs in this launch because it kind of was part of that, which was about $8,500. And then my affiliates, which we can talk about later, ended up being about $6,300 in I guess commission. So altogether, like I spent about $25,000 on this launch, which is like bonkers.
I know, but when we get to the end and we hear about the ROI,
it was worth it.
I mean, yeah. Okay, cool. Let's keep talking about your pre-launch phase. And I'm such a staunch pre-launch phase girly. So talk to me about like social media. Where were you showing up? What were you doing? Talk to us about how social media played a role into this launch.
So I showed up on LinkedIn. That was huge for the quiz and just building buzz. It was not super well organized in advance, but I could, like, if I had an email that I loved, I would put that on social. I don't actually think we did much on any other social media platform except for the Facebook, Instagram ads.
Right.
So yeah, it was all LinkedIn. And it was definitely like a combination in terms of like celebrating the success of the people who've been fractional fundraisers, educating people, calls to action. So yeah, all that, but just Instagram and very organic. And
you mean just LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, yes, sorry, just LinkedIn.
I'm like, wait, no. Like, okay, and then talk to me about emails. Yes, I wrote not all of them. I wrote a vast majority of your emails, but
I had a lot of emails.
You had a lot of emails.
So let me break this down. So I had like the warm-up emails, which was the wait list. So like I had 3 call to apply, get on the wait list. Then I had like all the warm-up, check out the quiz, do the podcast, blah, blah, blah. I can't even count how many emails there are, like at least 15 probably in the warm-up phase. And then I had a lot of sequences kind of like running simultaneously. So I had like the open house emails, like promoting the open house, which was about 6, hold on, how many were in there? Open house, 7 emails to promote the open house. But at the same time, I had the flash sale for people who are pre-applied and pre-approved on like from the waitlist to the application in advance. And so there were 6 emails for the flash sale. And then the sales emails. So once I launched after the open house, I had a few emails getting people to like a call to apply. Then I had an automation. So if I did a call with them, there were a couple emails following up after that. And then there were a couple cart close emails. There were lots of emails like out the wazoo. It was a lot. And it was at times, I would say that's the one thing that I found overwhelming because keeping in my head, and I wrote this down, I have charts and like things, but like who gets what email when, segmenting my list, I understand that like some people might get multiple things or like multiple messages, but I really wanted to avoid that just because I'm like, we have the technology to segment and customize that experience. And so I tried to do that as much as possible.
It's tough sometimes though.
Yeah. Yeah. But I feel pretty good actually. Like if you subscribe to the podcast, like hopefully no other place would you get a message that says subscribe to the podcast, you know?
Right.
So, there were lots of emails and lots of moving parts in the back end of the emails, like lots of filtering and stuff like that.
And for folks listening, what email service provider do you use?
I use ConvertKit.
Yes, which she just switched to during this launch. I was like, oh my gosh, you're just add it to your plate. Yes. Okay, cool. And I mean, can you tell us a little bit about the emails? Like, how are they performing? What were the open rates like?
Yes. Hold on. I actually have to open. I mean, some of them were a little all over the place in terms of open rates and stuff like that. Because it depended on what. So I would say like the budget piece did really well. The sale, hold on, I'm looking. So for example, like if my flash sale ones actually did pretty well because people were primed. Mm-hmm. So for example, the first flash sale email only went out to like 26 people, but I had a 30.8% click-through rate.
Yeah.
Right. Like so it was all over the place. What else? Like, whereas some were lower, like around 1.6% click through. So it depended on, and then I had I had like my broader emails, which was, anyone in my list. So that had lower engagement versus my launch list, which was people who actually engaged with a piece of the launch. And then the wait list, which was like a even warmer segment of that. So that part was a little all over the place.
Yeah, it's a lot. And again, for anyone thinking like, I don't even know what these girls are talking about, like I would maybe recommend talking to someone who has done this before, so can help you think through like segments and automation and workflows and timing and all that stuff. Cause it's can be a bit of a beast. I'll actually say I'm on one of my favorite coaches. I'm on her email list and she's going through a launch right now. I've actually purchased her product like a long time ago. And somehow, some way I'm getting like double emails for her sales emails for a product I've bought like so long ago. So like it happens to, people who've been doing this and who have a lot of resources and team members and things like that. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's keep going. Okay, so we talked about social, we talked about emails. Let's talk about some results. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we talked about the audience size, like booming.
Yes.
Let's talk about those sales.
Okay. So, at the end, I feel like there's a drum roll here.
I know.
We had 17 people sign up, which, like I said, I'm pretty stoked about. I feel like that's,
from 4 to 17, get out of here.
Yeah. Like amazing. And what that breaks down, it's a $9,000 program. So overall, like gross revenue was 153,000, which
I'm so proud of you.
My first 6-figure launch. And like, I could not be happier. So, I did not have anyone pay in full. Which
you didn't want, you really pushed the monthly.
I like monthly. Yeah. But I had 9 people do the 6-month payment plan. I did introduce a 12-month payment plan a little bit later on, because our sector is just so funny about money. So I had 8 people do the 12-month payment plan. And yes, it is a 6-month program with a 12-month payment plan. I'm fine with that. I feel like I build a relationship with these people. Hopefully none of them are going to ghost me. If I get to like having 100 people in the program, I'll figure that out. But for now, I felt pretty comfortable with that. So what else can I tell you? So at the end, the net profit, like I told you all the expenses, it was 127,000 and change.
Yeah, girl. Okay. And so do you have any idea what like that conversion rate was on your audience list size to that?
Hold on. I have like, what do I look at? I don't think I have for the whole list. I have like, hold on, application conversion. I have so many numbers, but it kind of whittles down. So like, I don't have as a percentage. I'm sure I can calculate it pretty quickly.
Yeah. How many people 17. Applied?
So yeah, I received 50 applications. I rejected a few of them. I accepted 46 of them. So out of the 46 that applied, there were, hold on, oh, yeah, out of 40, I was like 37% of people who applied ended up joining.
Which is out of control. Yeah. I mean, out of control.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm even curious what's 46 over, like, I'm just going to use 1,200. I mean, even 46 people applying out of your larger audience of roughly 1,200 people is 4%, which is also incredible.
Yeah. And that's my like full list size of consultants. The actual launch list was 852. So that's the segment within the big launch. Yeah.
That is, oops, hold on. Oops. Why is it 852?
Yeah.
That's 2%. Is that right? 17 divided by.
Yeah, 2%.
Which is great and on track. I talk about this all the time. I have like yet to break a 1% threshold for my audience, and my audience is engaged. And the reason why I'm like honing in on this point is because there's all these people out there that are like, you know, you should expect a 2 to 5% conversion rate. I'm like, in what world? Like, not when you're selling to nonprofits, and apparently not when you're selling to nonprofit consultants or wannabe nonprofit consultants. Yeah. But and so yours are great.
Like, I mean, also it's a high priced program, right? Yeah. Like that's also like, it's not like a $500 thing. Like this is a big commitment for people. Totally. So yeah, I'm, like I said, super happy with those results.
Totally. Okay. Let's go back to just the last couple of questions. I feel like we should talk about just, you know, if you could think through like, what's one thing that you just thought worked really well with this launch?
Showing up, like 100% was just like, like it was me. It was how I played in this game. That is what worked. I had full confidence in what I was selling. Like I am in love with this program. I'm, you know, and having the people around me to nudge me to let go of some of my fears and showing up in a way that like, I just left nothing on the table. I went all in, and in the truest sense, like that is what I think made all the difference.
Totally.
That's what worked.
If you were to do just anything differently, anything you'd let go of, anything you'd go harder on, like anything at all that you would do differently, what would that be?
Yeah. So there's a couple like little things. So for example, my notes are like, change the affiliate settings. So I was my first time doing affiliates through Thrivecart. I would play around with some of the settings. Okay, so when I did the sales emails, I sent people to the checkout page. I would send them to the full sales page instead, because I think some people need to see that. I would tighten up the webinar. So I did a completely new webinar open house that I would just tighten up, and doing icon again, or some sort of a booth, I would be more targeted around my messaging. But that's that's my list.
One of the things we didn't really talk about that I wanted to sneak in quickly is affiliates, because in addition to ads, you did lean on other people's audiences. Like, what was that experience like? What would you do differently, keep the same, all that?
Yes. So, I really enjoyed that. We had great engagement from people who were already in our program, like who'd been through it before, already in our network. I'd like a small group of like really qualified affiliates. Jess, you were an affiliate. Shauna Palmer was an affiliate really successfully. And mostly people in my network. And so I would definitely do that again. I think it's just keeping it like really tight and making sure that those affiliates are willing to promote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I have some friends who are like, oh, well, I'll affiliate. Like I knew they weren't going to promote it much, and that's totally fine, and happy that they were participating. But the ones like you can really see a difference in terms of who promoted. The one thing I'll say is like there were affiliates like you who had a lot of volume in terms of like you have a big list, you have engagement, and then there were people who are, you know, in my network of fractional fundraisers who don't have big audiences, but they are speaking from their experience. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, they post on LinkedIn, the people they're sending our way are like highly qualified. So both were really good.
Totally. So for anyone who's like one-to-many curious, what's just like your Diana Hill advice for them? If they're maybe even not doing this a long time, but have not been successful, or they're wanting to give this style of selling or program a try, like what's the one thing you would advise?
So I would start with your MVP. So MVP is minimum viable product. And that's what I did a year and a half ago. And I don't think I would have had the launch that I just had I not gone through those like very soft, very organic launches, really testing, like going back to like what I think worked really well, which is how I showed up. I don't think I would have had that confidence to be like, this is the best program ever. Had I not done those soft launches, had I not spent the time really understanding the audience, understanding what works, how I can help them be successful. And so I think don't look at this launch as like the first time I've done this or like a first step. This is a mid-step in a long journey. And most people have not been doing this. I don't want to say as long as I have, but like I've spent years building an audience. I've spent, testing the product, all those things. So start where you are and don't be afraid to put yourself out there and take calculated risks.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. We are so grateful to you for being such an open book on all of these numbers to be the case study so we can all learn from you. And I'm so proud of you and this program and everything. Like, it's like chef's kiss. So good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If anyone has any follow-up questions for Cindy, hit her up on LinkedIn, send her an email. As you can tell, like, she's not going to hold back. And if you're interested in being a fractional fundraiser at some point or another, where can people get on the wait list?
Yeah. So I think we can go to my website, thegoodpartnership.com. I'm pretty sure I also have the URL, beafractionalfundraiser.com or becomeafractionalfundraiser.com.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, but definitely, I mean, the other thing that this has shifted for me is the rest of my business and how I show up in my coaching with other consultants. And so we didn't talk about that, but also it has drummed up other coaching business. So you can also go to cindywagman.com if you're just like, oh, cool, that's someone I want to learn from. So.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you, friend, for sharing all the nitty gritty numbers. You know, I love all this stuff, and it's been so fun cheering you along the way. And for everyone else, we'll catch you next time.
Thank you again for listening to the Confessions podcast for nonprofit coaches and consultants. If you enjoyed today's episode, which I sure hope you did, you can show your support in one of three ways.
Number one, post a screenshot of this episode to your Instagram stories or LinkedIn profile and tag Cindy and I so we can repost you.
Number two, share this podcast with a fellow nonprofit coach or consultant.
And number three, leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts so we can continue to grow and reach new listeners.
And of course, make sure you subscribe so you can get the latest and greatest interviews as they drop every Thursday.
And to our fellow nonprofit coaching and consulting friends, remember, we're an open book and here to answer your burning biz questions.
See you next time.